What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering a topic in terms of player progression within Madden 22. And specifically, we're talking about time frames with player progression and player regression within the game. We're going to be talking about when players actually obtain their experience points, their dev upgrades and downgrades at the end of the season, as well as when players receive their regression. If we actually go to this roster right here in this Pittsburgh Steelers franchise that I have with other players, my team has experienced various changes now that we've moved on to the offseason. So one of those changes, for example, would be Cameron Hayward, since he's 34 years old now, taking on some additional regression. So when we take a look at his progression history, we're going to get to see here that during staff week, he got -2s to a bunch of categories, things like that that are negatively impacting him overall as a player. However, we've definitely received some positives on the other end of things. So when we go to progression history for Kenny Pickett, for example, we'll scroll down to the bottom of staff week right here, and you guys will see he got a bunch of upgrades off of a bunch of XP that he earned for winning QB of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and he was the NFL passer rating leader, which is an interesting little category there that you guys might not have been aware of. So Madden awards XP and player dev changes based on awards, based on their standing within a certain position in terms of a certain stat. So for example, we led in passer rating. You might get something similar if you led in passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, another category such as that. Really though, the question comes into play here of when these upgrades and downgrades and XP and regression actually take into account, because what it's showing right now is that every single player on the team had all of their upgrades and downgrades in the staff week of the season, which is a little bit odd because you're actually seeing absolutely nothing here for Super Bowl week. We actually participated in and lost the Super Bowl, so nothing happened to us, quote unquote, on Super Bowl week. In fact, it's just saying that we went straight from Pro Bowl week. As you guys can see, that is the next to last week of training up here to this week, which is staff week. So nothing happened in between, at least it says. It's compiling everything, though, into the staff week on this player progression history tab. That is not actually accurate to what's going on with these players within the game. It's not actually accurate to when these things are taking place. So don't be fooled by the fact that all of the player progression, player regression, upgrades, all of that stuff is happening within this specific week. I went ahead here real quick and just started up another franchise, and in fact I already had this one prepped and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply sim to the playoffs right here, and then we're going to walk through step by step to show you guys when these different upgrades, downgrades, regression, all this stuff is actually taking place at the end of the season. The good thing to know is that it's pretty much all going to take place in a very short time span. So it's not totally inaccurate to compile all of this stuff into one category on that player progression tab, but it is still inaccurate nonetheless. It should be broken out from one week to another, and unfortunately what's going on here, and as you guys will see in a follow-up video, they have not updated when these things take action, when these things actually occur within franchise mode from whenever it was a 16-game season and the playoffs were structured differently, and therefore that is why this is looking a little bit wonky on the screen. There's actually a couple of other things that affects. One major thing that I'm going to follow up on this video with another video on that is actually a major problem that takes place in a certain week that it should not take place in during the season. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead, simulate to the end of the season. I'll see you guys in a moment. All right, so we've made it to the playoffs here now after simulating through, and what I want to first take a look at is who the stat leaders are, or who the award leaders are, I should say, for the season. So we're going to go to yearly awards here, and we're going to take a look to see when these things are actually happening. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be a perfect test dummy for this scenario because he's an older player, so he will get some regression at some point, but he also won MVP. Tom Brady is another player that we can certainly take a look at, so it'll be nice to have two players up here at the top that are older that will face some regression but will also gain XP, and we can see exactly when all of that is happening. So the reason that I'm taking a look at yearly awards right now, if you did not know, know is that yearly awards are locked in after the regular season is done within Madden, within the video game. They're not decided upon after that. They're completely based off of your regular season performance. So once you move on from the regular season, those are going to be locked in. So we know that those are locked in right now, and knowing that they're locked in, you might expect to see the experience or the upgrades or any of that type of stuff happening directly off of that week that we advance to the postseason. And simply, the fact of the matter is that that's not exactly how it's going to work. So if we go over to progression history for Aaron Rodgers, you guys will see that there is no award listed here. We're not getting anything for MVP. We're not getting anything for progression in any sort of, specific facet or anything like that. We're not really getting anything. We got 9 Pro Bowls made, but that's going to be just a little bit of a hint at something that I'm talking about in the next video. But I'll leave you guys hanging on that one. But nonetheless, we're not getting anything yet. So what you actually have to do is you have to advance to the Super Bowl before you're actually ever going to get those awards for the players. So if we go ahead and sim ahead a couple of weeks, we're just going to go ahead and advance 1 week at a time so that you guys can see exactly what's going on here. Specifically, I want to get to the Pro Bowl week, because the Pro Bowl week is when you might think, okay, well then we would get our XP and our bonuses for winning yearly awards, but that's simply not the case. We've still not gotten any pop-up or anything for the yearly awards, and if I go into the roster and I still check over those quarterbacks, you guys are going to see very quickly that they still have not gotten their upgrades. So if we take a look at Aaron Rodgers, he has gotten nothing, and I'm very confident in that he has gotten absolutely nothing progression-wise for winning MVP this season. Still just hasn't happened. It's just the simple fact of the matter. Going from playoff week to playoff week, he's gotten nothing for winning MVP. So what actually happens is the upgrades at the end of the season, whether it's based off of your standings within the stat categories, whether it's based off of yearly awards and things of that nature, they're all going to happen as soon as you advance to the Super Bowl week, and this has been the same for a long time. So I wouldn't suspect that this is going to change for Madden 23, and I would suspect that you could go back to many different Madden games, whatever you might be playing, and this is going to be the same fact. And the reason that this is going to happen is because it's going to finally give you the option to view yearly awards. And that's when when you get that option, that's when you know that you're going to have the upgrades for those players. And you guys can see I've now earned some upgrades, things like that. That's what happens whenever you reach this point in the season. So if we go back to quarterbacks now, we go back to NFL, Aaron Rodgers is going to show his progression for those awards. So you guys can see he got NFL passer rating leader, quarterback of the year, offensive player of the year, most valuable player. Those are all giving bonuses to his legacy, to his experience points. They're totaling up. Surprisingly enough, it's not that much experience, but nonetheless, it's all taking place as soon as you get to Super Bowl week. So that's the important note that you guys want to remember, is that anytime you are in the running for a yearly award, it's locked in after week 18, and you're going to actually get the benefit of it come Super Bowl week. However, the other very important note here that I want to talk about that we've already mentioned is the regression, and we're not seeing any regression for this player in Super Bowl week. You might think that the week that you get the upgrades, you also get the regression downgrades, but that's simply not the case. So we're going to go ahead and advance to the next week, and that's going to take us to our staff week. And as you guys can see, it's now going to compile all of this information into one little category. So if we go back to the NFL roster now, we go back to quarterbacks, and we go all the way back to Aaron Rodgers, he has now jumped down in overall. You guys can see once you advance past the Super Bowl week is when regression is going to happen. And as we saw before, it was listing a specific section for just those awards and those upgrades, but now it has all of these regression points combined with it. So they're happening in the exact same section, even though they're happening in reality in 2 separate time frames. So important information for you guys to know. Like I said, it happens very close together, but it can be very useful to know this information of when these things are going to happen within your franchise and to your players. It's very helpful to game plan around those things. It's helpful to build your team with this type of stuff in mind, having this information in mind. So now you guys know, if you did not already, when these updates upgrades for yearly awards are going to happen, when that XP takes place, when Regression is going to take place. Hopefully this information was useful to you guys. If it was, leave a like down below, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a good one.